आगे जाके क्या मिलेगा. But इस moment में what is my consciousness telling me? What seems wholesome? What seems natural? So we lose our spontaneity. So the more conscious you become, then what's likely to happen? When you become more conscious, when you become more aware, what is likely to happen? If I was more conscious when I was young, perhaps I would not take a decision of becoming a chartered accountant. I would make some other choice. The choice would be perhaps considered right because it would be closer to what? It is natural self. My natural self means consciousness is expressing itself in a certain manner. So that I'm aware, I'm attentive to in the now, because consciousness is expressing itself in a certain manner. I'm aware that this and that is not only about career choices, it's about relationships. It's about, inside you when you're eating something, whether this is working for you. When you're talking to someone, whether you feel good about this. When you go in a certain space or energy, you can sense, if you're aware, you can sense the energy inside you, and the consciousness is telling you. But you compromise, mind says, आगे जाके क्या मिलेगा, or what you will lose. So the more conscious you become, then what is likely to happen? How will consciousness come into your life? Which is what the whole conversation is about. Because consciousness is not only about like 1 hour or 3 times a week you come and then you feel nice. What is consciousness about? And how will it come into your life? How will it transform your life? How will it change your life? Choices are then what? Your choices are closer to what? They are more closer to your natural self, because consciousness is making the choice. You are not making the choice. The consciousness is not ruled by time, past or future. आगे क्या मिलेगा, नहीं मिलेगा, वो होगा, नहीं होगा. Consciousness is making a choice based on what seems, and the word for that is intuition. It is intuitive. It is not thinking. It's an intuitive. Consciousness just is a very spontaneous action. It is not a thought. It is not a strategic action. It is not मुझे ये क्या मिलेगा, वो मेरे बारे में क्या सोच रहा है, ये क्या होगा. ये सब दिमाग करता है based on time, future and past. Consciousness is in the moment, spontaneous, intuitive. The only caution I will give you is quite often people mistake. So consciousness means it's a spontaneous action. It is not even a thoughtful action. It is a spontaneous, intuitive action. But it is very important over here to differentiate between impulsiveness and spontaneity. Okay, this wisdom can be very misused. किसी को like मुझे मन किया 10 आइसक्रीम खाने का. Consciousness, intuitiveness is spontaneous. मेरा मन किया इसको थप्पड़ मारने का. Consciousness is spontaneous. So please ये wisdom ना थोड़ा आप so don't misuse, because the mind has the ability to misuse this wisdom and say that तभी तो कुछ भी कर, consciousness है. But you also need to realize that consciousness has its intelligence, which is not based on a strategic thinking mind, because ये तुम्हारा body, ये consciousness अपने आप ही कर रहा है. Your blood circulation, your digestion, your new nervous system, your breathing, your respiration, ये कौन कर रहा है? Consciousness कर रहा है. The whole universe is, because there is some conscious energy. You are the same with that same conscious energy. You are not different from that conscious energy. So the more you bring consciousness into your life, the more you realize your consciousness, the more there is separation between you and the mind, you and the thoughts, you and the past, you and the future, you and greed, you and fear. Then you come more into your own being, and then the being expresses itself in a way which seems natural. And those choices are not based on greed and fear. Those choices are based on a sense of oneness, a sense of love, a sense of whatever, the virtue comes naturally in consciousness. You don't have to create compassion. I have to be compassionate to myself. Compassion happens. You don't have to be, I have to be compassionate and kind to others. Compassion, then all those virtue happens through consciousness. It is not a mind created compassion, which is like mind says, I have to love myself. Ye dimag kehta hai. Compassion is automatically is a flavor of consciousness. Are you getting what I'm saying? So whatever we are doing is not like a stress reliever. It is not like, okay, 1 ghanta kiya stress reliever. This is something which is consciousness, what you are. Life is what you are. You are believing I'm an individual based on time and I have to make choices and all of that. And that is the source of all your stress and tension. Once you realize your consciousness, then there is no you who has to make choices. Consciousness intuitively, it's a very intuitive, spontaneous action that happens, which is very conscious in that sense. But तुम अभी ये मत, don't get into this dialogue कि ये consciousness से action आया या ये impulse से action आया. This is another thing. ये another, your mind needs something to play with. Okay, now just because I'm saying this, now the mind will start thinking, is this action coming from consciousness? Is this coming from impulse or whatever? All you need to do is practice consciousness, practice self-awareness. You listen to this knowledge. The more you imbibe this, the more it will start happening. I keep giving the example of when you walk in the fog, you get wet, without your knowing it, automatically consciousness will start coming into your life more and more and more, and it will start bringing, like the fragrance of consciousness will start spreading on its own. It is not, you don't make a goal out of it that now I need to become conscious, now I need to make conscious. वो सब मत करो, वो दिमाग है. When your actions are based on greed and desire and fear, then you stop becoming natural, because तुम्हें कुछ मिल रहा है कहीं से, you are dependent on something, then your naturalness is lost, your spontaneity is lost, your inner authority is lost, your inner power is lost, because you are attached and dependent on something, because you are hoping that आगे जाके ये मुझे चाहिए या ये नहीं मिलेगा तो क्या होगा and all of that. It means if you're losing your naturalness and spontaneity, then I don't know whether it's worth being in a certain space. If it is possible to align or work in a way where you don't have to lose your authenticity, your naturalness, maybe you may need to adapt a little bit, but don't compromise so much that you just lose your naturalness. Then then it's not, then again, your choices are not based on, it is not a spontaneous, natural, intuitive choice. It's actually, the word choice itself is an illusion which is created by the mind, that I'm making a choice. And then the mind constantly sees is आगे जाके मुझे इसका मिलेगा क्या. But if you're more in touch with consciousness, which is what you naturally are, then the choice is not so much a choice. It is more like a spontaneous realization and an action. Are you getting what I'm saying? It is not so much like a thinking-based choice. It's just a spontaneous realization and an action. The choice also is not based on what will I get and what will I not get. It is not, the I is not there in that. Are you getting what I'm saying? Otherwise, there's always an I involved in the choice. What will I get or what will I not get? The choice is not based on these parameters of fear or greed. It is consciousness, means it is just what seems. So another word, if I may use for consciousness, is then consciousness is aligned to dharma. It is not aligned to greed and fear. If you look at capitalism, it is all about greed and fear. कि कितना मिलेगा, कितना salary package है, ये है वो, मुझे कितना मिलेगा. Dharma is not about मुझे कितना मिलेगा. Dharma means मेरा धर्म क्या है, मेरा स्वधर्म क्या है. मैं like कोई मुझे अगर करोड़ों रुपए दे दे, बोले चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंसी करे, will you go back to becoming a chartered accountant? That's not who I can, no matter how much money you may give me for it, because that's not my dharma, that is not my swadharma. So when you are in consciousness, you are in your dharma and your swadharma. That is what it is. And you don't compromise your dharma or swadharma for the sake of something you will get or you will not get. Are you getting now the whole, I think that word dharma and swadharma are very important. Dharma means you're not violating any laws, and swadharma means you're not violating your natural self-expression. Dharma means you're not being dishonest, you're not being violent, you're not cheating, you're not all of this. Swadharma means you're being true to yourself. So when you're conscious, you are aligned to dharma and swadharma, and hence you're not pulled with duality because you're in alignment with dharma and swadharma. Do you get it? Okay, good. And when we make choices using a calculative mind, ki aage jaake kya milega kya, then we violate the dharma and swadharma, and that is why we then get into contradiction. Then our mind gets conflicted. One thought is thinking this, one part of you is pulled in this direction, another part of you. There is no integration. When you're conscious, there is integration because you're in alignment with the dharma and swadharma.